the Virginia Horse Industry Board, Southwest Virginia Agricultural Association, and the Virginia Christmas Tree Growers Association are proud sponsors of Virginia Farming.
This program's brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Large or small, Virginia farmers work year-round to help put food on your table. And Farm Bureau works year-round to help farmers and all Virginians. Farming, it's all good. To learn more, go to vafarmbureau.org.
Brought to you by Farm Family. Life, auto, business, farm. Nancy Asher, stable owner, visionary, agent of change. Another personal story on farmfamilypeople.com. Farm Family, the people you know. Hi everybody, welcome to Virginia Farming. I'm Amy Rocher. Insurance is something most of us don't often think about, but it is a necessity. Some small farmers who are just starting out may not even realize their homeowners policy doesn't cover their new venture. Steve Purdy from Farm Family Insurance joins us with tips on making sure you are properly insured on Ag Insights. Then we'll talk about crepe myrtles when we join Mark Viette in the garden. Plus, we'll have the Ag Calendar, a Minute in the Field video, and the Ag News of the Week, all on this edition of Virginia Farming. A new USDA report says farmers' conservation practices are paying off in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Here's Patrick O'Leary with the story.
Jerry Silver's corn and cattle farm near Fredericksburg, Virginia, has been in his family for more than a century. On a recent visit from Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, Silver showed some of his successful conservation practices, cover crops to reduce soil erosion, and a manure storage structure to prevent runoff. Vilsack says practices like these are making a big difference in the Chesapeake Bay watershed.
Annually, 15 million tons of soil that once was going into our rivers and streams is no longer going into our rivers and streams in the Chesapeake Bay watershed area. Positive news, and certainly an indication that conservation works.
As far as the conservation, we're completely no-till, have been for a number of years. And as you can see, this is an example of a pretty daggone good-looking cover crop, even if it is mine.
A new USDA report estimates that 97% of cropped acreage in the 6 states of the Bay watershed is in conservation practices that are good for farms and the environment. USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service helps landowners plan and install the voluntary practices, some of which offer financial assistance through Farm Bill programs. Vilsack says a new farm bill is needed to keep the conservation success stories coming.
We need to provide producers like Jerry and his operation here the certainty of what those farm programs are going to be, what the conservation programs are going to be. We need a farm bill, and we need it now.
Agriculture contributes about $10 billion annually to the Chesapeake Bay region's economy, and the new report shows farmers are also contributing to the environment through conservation. In Fredericksburg, Virginia, for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm Pat O'Leary.
Thanks, Pat. And that farm bill was recently passed in the House and is now waiting for Senate approval. While Virginia wines have won both national and international awards in recent years, the amount of grapes grown is not increasing. One vineyard manager says that with the average size winery being about 5 acres, it's not producing enough grapes to make large quantities of wine. Now, 10 years ago, Virginia had 78 wineries. Today, it has more than 250. The Virginia Farm Bureau says that with such an increase, demand for grapes has outpaced production, which leads to higher prices for wholesale grapes. Now, under state law, a wine cannot be called a Virginia wine unless 50% or more of the grapes come from Virginia. Well, one thing that pairs well with that Virginia wine is Virginia beef. Consumers today crave more information than ever before on how and where their food is produced. And that trend is only expected to increase. In this segment, we learn about the need for transparency and education in the beef business. BJ Scott has more.
In between cattle on pasture and the dinner plate, there are some steps in beef production that can be uncomfortable to talk about. The American Meat Institute's Janet Riley says they shouldn't be left out of the conversation, though.
There's research to show that if you give people the correct information up front, even on a subject that's a little difficult to talk about, like slaughter, you can inoculate them against bad information. Because when they see an undercover video, if they've never seen slaughter done right, they have no basis on which to evaluate that activist video. So showing them the facts ahead of time will help them think more critically.
She spoke at the 2013 Feeding Quality Forum in Omaha, urging cattlemen to get involved in sharing their stories with neighbors and friends.
I think there's a real trend. People want to know the source of their food. They want the information. The problem is that trust. They must trust the source of information. And I think that calls for very personal conversation.
How producers approach the subject is important too. People are passionate about their food choices, and one must listen first to hear their point of view.
A lot of times their concerns come from confusion. They're convinced, for example, that cattle that are fed corn are always fed corn and only fed corn, or that cattle spend their entire lives in a feedlot. So we have to not dismiss them and not make them feel stupid for thinking that way. We just need to give them the benefit of our information.
Riley says hitting the web is vital to help educate the next wave of consumers. 96% of Generation Y belongs to some type of social media network.
Social media is critically important. As a mother of 2 teenagers, I see the changes. I went to journalism school at a time before we even had computers. I still had a manual typewriter, and that was just in the 80s. And now I see kids who are all equipped with iPhones and are tweeting and checking Facebook, and that's the source of their information.
A growing challenge? Yes. A growing opportunity? Certainly, Riley says. I'm BJ Scott.
Thanks, BJ. Insuring your property, animals, and your income. We've got tips to make sure you are covered in any event when Steve Purdy from Farm Family Insurance joins us. That's straight ahead on Ag Insights. Insurance. It's something a lot of us don't think about until we need it. Today we're talking about correcting the mistakes a lot of us make when it comes to insuring our property and even ourselves. Joining us today is Steve Purdy with Farm Family Insurance. Steve, welcome to Virginia Farming.
Thank you very much.
It's really nice for you to be here today. First, I'd like for you to give us a little bit of history about the Farm Family, if you would.
Sure. Farm Family was started in the 1950s, dedicated to providing insurance for the unique needs of farmers. I was kind of born into it. My father joined Farm Family in 1957. I've got 2 brothers who are also affiliated with Farm Family and myself, so it's kind of exciting. This year, my family, my immediate family, will have over 100 years of experience insuring farms with Farm Family.
Wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot. I think that says a lot for your company if you have that many family members working in it.
Yeah, we encourage it, and we find that a lot of second-generation insurance agents work for us as well.
That's great. I know you guys have a wide spread throughout the farming community, and I wanted to talk a little bit about farmers in particular. What are some mistakes that farmers make when it comes to insurance, either buying insurance or maybe not buying enough or not buying the right type? And how do we know what we need?
Sure. There's a lot of gaps or trouble spots that farmers can get into when they're trying to insure their farm. Probably the most common is they fail to contact their insurance agent when they improve on their buildings. So they make them larger, or they expand their house, they improve their kitchen or modify their basement, and it's important that they insure it 100% to value. Otherwise, there's something called co-insurance, where the company is not required to pay you the full amount of insurance. So the key is that they notify their insurance agent when they've made improvements to their buildings or to their barns. Another one is they often will have some sort of care, custody, and control of other people's animals. So they might have a horse, it might be an alpaca, it might be any other animal, and they're transporting it. And they've got to think about what the value of that animal might be, and whether, in the event that they had a loss, what that exposure might be. Often here in Virginia, we don't think about it, but we have snowstorms, pretty hard snowstorms about every decade, and you got to worry about collapse on your buildings. And I've noticed a lot of people will insure their buildings and not think about what happens if I had a heavy snow load. In addition, often we will have people don't realize they have a business activity. They'll be leasing their land or allowing someone to take hay off their land, and they've got a business activity. They need business liability. Or they put up a four-stall barn, they've got 2 horses of their own, now they've started boarding some other animals, yet they don't have boarding liability.
Okay.
And then probably the only thing I would say is pay attention. If you create an LLC, you've got to communicate with your insurance agent that you've done that, because you've got to insure that entity.
Okay.
So you've done the right
the name
thing.
as well.
You've done the right thing. You've created an LLC to protect yourself, or your attorneys advise you to do so. But now you've got to communicate with your insurance agent that you've done so.
Now, you mentioned protecting or insuring your building.
Yes.
But what about the cattle that are bedding in that building? How does that work? Do you have insurance on every head? Do you have insurance on a herd? How does that work?
Yeah, most farm insurance companies, and we insure livestock, so we can insure it for the normal perils that would happen to livestock. And then if you have a very valuable animal, there's such an insurance called mortality insurance.
Right.
So if you had a thoroughbred horse, it's important that you potentially insure it not only for the normal things that might happen, but also disease or injury. But most farm insurance companies offer some livestock insurance, and most common claim that we have in this area is we'll have potentially lightning. And obviously the cattle might be sitting all under the same tree, and you have lightning and you could lose several cattle at the same time.
Okay. I also want to talk about today, you and I talked about insuring your income.
Yes.
So that kind of takes us to disability. And
correct.
I know there's a lot of farmers out there who struggle through their jobs with their disabilities. So they have these disabilities, but they still keep plowing ahead, if you will, and trying to do their jobs, but they really need to be protected, don't they?
Right. It's one of those things that we don't like to think about, but nationwide, approximately 288,000 agricultural workers between the ages of 15 and 79 have a disability that affects their ability to perform one or essential tasks, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's just, most Americans don't think about, they'll insure their property, their cars, their farm, their machinery. They don't think about potentially insuring that asset that's most important, their ability to create an income. Right. And farming is dangerous. We work with rotating machinery. It's faster than the human hand, so we get into trouble. And it can happen to any of us at any time. So I would advise people have to think about what happens if they're injured today or they have a disease and they're not able to create an income.
Right.
Well, insurance companies have devised something called disability insurance to protect you from that potential threat.
Well, we talked about the machinery and how dangerous it is, but farming is honestly one of the most dangerous occupations in the country, isn't it?
Sure it is. And I think it's just not something we like to think about or talk about, but it's out there.
Well, I guess a lot of people need to know what do they need to ask their agent? What's important for us to ask you to make sure we're insured? And what's important for us to ask you when there is some type of accident or we need to make a claim?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's like any profession. You want to ask your agent, what's his education? What's his background? What's his experience? If he has any additional training in this field, in the agribusiness sector. Certainly appropriate to ask what are the financial ratings of his company? Is he working for a company that's financially strong? And consumers can look those up on public websites these days. AM Best is a company that rates insurance companies. Standard & Poor's is another one. They can check the financial strength of the company. But certainly ask about whether they have any specialized coverages for their particular type of farming. And then certainly what kind of licenses that agent might have. So do they sell life insurance, or do they just sell property and casualty insurance? Do they sell health insurance? Are they licensed to work in that? And then certainly, are they securities licensed? Do they have a Series 6 license to sell mutual funds, or a Series 7 to sell equities? And then really getting into, what are their specialties?
Okay.
So like any profession, if you went to a physician today, you'd want to ask, what is their specialty? You want to ask the same of an insurance agent.
Okay. So I have insurance.
Okay.
And I have a house.
Okay.
But like a lot of people, maybe I want to start having a few chickens. Or I have a horse for my kids, but my neighbors want to board their horse in my stable. At what point does my insurance need to change from a homeowner's policy to something different?
Well, in general, when you have some sort of activity of farming, but sometimes it sneaks up on you. But in general, if you produce or market fruit, vegetables, nuts, field crops, flowers, sod, nursery, greenhouse, you raise milk or keep livestock, you have poultry or fur-bearing animals, alpacas, llamas, you have bees, or you grow fish for a living, you're a farmer.
Absolutely.
Okay? But sometimes you start off with a small garden in your backyard and you've got adequate, and you start selling it on the side of the road. Well, you don't realize, but you've now turned it into a farm.
Okay.
Or you take your fresh produce to the local market, you're a farm. If you own a cat or a dog, that's one thing, but now if you buy a farm animal, you buy a horse, you buy an alpaca, you buy a llama, you have cattle, you're really a farmer, and you ought to have a farm product, not a homeowner's product.
So at that point, if something would happen, because you and I discussed this earlier a little bit, that's one of the largest mistakes that's made in the insurance realm today. People creep into farming and don't realize that they're there.
Correct.
And then they don't have the appropriate coverage.
Right.
So if something happens to the stable or the chicken house or anything else, it's not included in the homeowner's policy.
Correct. It's important that they question their agent. So if they buy a horse, for instance, as an example, and they were doing eventing, is their homeowner's policy going to protect them? Primarily, though, if they start selling farm products or marketing farm products or owning a farm animal, the bell should go off that they need a farm owner's product, some sort of farm product as opposed to a homeowner's product.
Okay.
And often, the other thing to look at is if you're allowing people to come on your land, and that could be anything from corn maze to pick your own, you should realize you have exposure more than potentially your homeowner's policy is going to protect.
Okay.
So it's just best, and again, we just creep into this thing. You can buy a horse for your child, and then it turns into two, and then the neighbor asks if they can board their horse at your facilities. Now you have a boarding operation, whether any money's changing hands or not.
Right, right. And then I think it kind of comes down to communication.
Correct.
It's up to us to keep our insurance agents informed of any changes we make, whether it's in our livelihoods or to our properties, to make sure that we stay covered.
Right. I mean, some of the things in life are just, you're going to understand to pick up the phone and call your agent. If you've had a death, if you have a disability, if someone's been injured, but some of them are less common. You don't think to tell them that you've changed locations. You don't think to tell them that you just created an LLC. Maybe you've changed your status. You've just gotten divorced. Well, the policy needs to be changed. Certainly, one of the other things to consider is if you're going into a contract and there's insurance requirements, maybe it's best to contact your insurance agent have them actually review the insurance requirements prior to signing that contract.
Right, because you guys know things to look for that we don't.
Well, there are some things that you'd be glad to provide, and there's other things that you don't necessarily want to give up your rights to.
Absolutely.
So it's wise to just keep that communication open with your agent, and most agents are glad to chat with you even if you have a question. And it's certainly fine to pick up the phone and call them when in fact you are venturing into a new area and you're questioning whether or not you have a new exposure, whether you're covered or not.
Sure. Well, thanks for joining us today,
Thank
Steve.
you.
I really appreciate it. And you guys are doing a good job helping protect our farmers and keeping everything covered.
We try to protect what people value the most. It really is, it's a great feeling.
Well, we appreciate it, and we're thankful that you guys are there.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Crepe myrtles are a popular plant. They can have the appearance of a small shrub or a large tree. It all depends on how you prune them. With tips, here's Mark Viette.
Crepe myrtle can grow anywhere from 1.5 feet in height, and they'll stay that height, or they can grow up to 40 or 50 feet even taller. So, you know, there's like 6 classifications. There's dwarf or super dwarf, dwarf, medium, medium tall height, and you can look that up online. You get all the different classifications. The type of crepe myrtle I'd like to talk about today is the more shrub growth crepe myrtle. And this is a crepe myrtle that will grow anywhere from 5 to maybe 10 feet tall, and that is its perfect size. And in many cases, depending on where you live, if you live in warmer areas, you're not going to find a lot of dieback like we have here. But if you live in some of the colder areas, or you experience those late freezes in the spring or early freezes in the fall, this growth from last year will be damaged. And a lot of times, I don't like to prune crepe myrtle till I see what is alive and what is dead. The shrub types of crepe myrtle benefit from being thinned out, and that is where you go in and take some of the oldest growth, maybe 5-year growth, 4-year growth completely out, and you let the new growth take over. If you experience a very cold winter and the majority of the plant is damaged, or if you live in very cold areas, you may have to come in and cut the whole plant back pretty hard. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and thin it out. And as if you look here on this branch, right, that I've got here, you can see some of the growth is alive right on this plant here, and then it stops here. So in some cases, I may tip some of these branches back, but on this one here, it's completely dead. This one here is completely dead. So what I'm going to do is start working and thinning it out. You know, I only like to take about, 1 or 2 out of every 5 branches to thin it out, and you'll really get a lot of great exercise. So this puts you on your knees. You really got to get hard at it and working, and you'll have your exercise for the whole week. This whole stem you see here is dyed back all the way to the base. So I'm going to cut it about 3 inches above the soil level. So I'm going to remove this branch, just like this, take it away. This one here is completely dead. So I'm going to come in here, and you can see years ago where we had to prune it in the past. So I'm going to come and take this one out. This one has growth to here, so I'm not going to cut it all the way back, but I might come right in here. When it comes to this one here, what I'm going to do is hold it, and then there it is there, okay? And prune that one there. And then this one, I'm just going to prune this tip. So really, I'm thinning it out, and this is going to bloom probably quite a while this summer. And it may bloom as late as September and even into October. Since I'm pruning it in midsummer, it will bloom a little later. In about 5 minutes, I've gotten a little bit of a workout, but look at all the dead. And not only that, I thinned this out. So a lot more air can go through this plant, gets a lot more sun, and therefore better blooming for the shrub-sized crepe myrtles in the garden. Remember, there are probably 50 different types of shrub crepe myrtles alone that you can use to get that wonderful long summer color. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
Taking a look at the ag calendar, the Mid-Atlantic Junior Angus Classic will be held March 7th through the 9th at the Rockingham County Fairgrounds in Harrisonburg. For more information, contact Linda Alexander or visit angus.org. That does it for our show. Thanks for watching and have a great week. I'm Amy Rocher for Virginia Farming.
This program is brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. From apples to zucchini, Virginia farmers work hard to put food on your table. And Farm Bureau works year-round to help farmers and all Virginians. Farming, it's all good. To learn more, go to vafarmbureau.org.
Brought to you by Farm Family, Life, Auto, Business, Farm. Jim Gray, farmer's son, agribusiness owner, insurance agent. Another personal story on farmfamilypeople.com. Farm Family, the people you know.